Hi everyone, glad to be with you again. Today we are creating some easy at-home 3D art or optical illusion art, however you want to call it. This is a fun activity we could do with simple materials. The materials we have here are, of course, a sheet of paper. This is regular printer paper, whatever's on your computer. 8.5 by 11. It could even be a regular scratch piece of paper that you have at home. Even if it has lines, we could work with whatever it is. I have a marker here. It could be, this one's red, but we could use black, we could use dark blue, we could use dark green, whatever color makes contrast with the white a little bit. Pair of scissors, any size, could be the kitchen scissors, whatever cuts, an eraser, a pencil, and of course a ruler. You don't need a ruler specifically. It would be helpful if you have these marks and numbers. However, if you just have a straight edge, it is more than enough to get started. So what we're creating here is a floating cube, and this is the artwork we're creating today. Very simple to make, but very cool looking. So you could see this, we're only using one color and pencil. And this is what it looks like from the top. So, fun activity you could do with the kids, with the family, with your friends. Only takes about 25 minutes or so, 20-25 minutes, and you have this perfectly cool looking floating cube. So let's get started. First step we're gonna do is we're gonna create a 4 by 4 inch square on the top left of your sheet of paper. And I'm gonna use my ruler here so I could get the proper measurements. But if you don't have a ruler, you could just make a square as close as you can. It's totally fine. And it'll look great as long as we keep the line straight. So I'm going to do my square here. And we're doing, again, a 4 by 4 square. So we have here, and the reason why we're doing 4 by 4 is we're creating a checkered pattern, but every square is going to be an inch by 1 inch. So let's go over here and do second line, and right there to reveal our perfect square. So next step we're going to do is we're going to mark our rows here by 1 inch. So 1 inch, 1 inch, and 1 inch. If you don't have a ruler, you could just eye it. Again, it's totally fine. Just try to keep your lines straight as possible so that we don't have crooked lines here. Okay, so let me draw our first line. 1, 2, and 3. We have our 4 rows there. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Perfect. So now we have our cube that looks a little bit like a Rubik's Cube. Next thing we want to do is add our dimension lines, our 3D lines that are going to give our artwork the illusion that it has dimension. This area right here. Now from the side, it looks thin, and as we lay it flat, it's actually a longer piece of drawing. So what we have to do is we have to pick a perspective point so that we could create this illusion. Obviously, from this angle, these areas look like perfect squares, although they're not. but that's what we're trying to do. And that's the shadow. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick our perspective point. And for those of you that just joined, this artwork is very simple. All I'm doing is pencil, marker, pair of scissors, and ruler. Of course, paper. So I'm gonna pick a perspective point for these lines to join, and I'm gonna pick them out. My perspective point is gonna be outside of my paper, say around here. Right there is a good guide. So I'm gonna put an X right here, and I'm gonna bring the lines from that cube to that perspective point with my ruler. And we wanna make these lines about 2 to 3 inches long. So I'm gonna put my ruler right on this perspective point, and I wanna connect that line. And I'm gonna do about a 3-inch line here. I'm gonna go about 3.5. Same with this. I'm gonna keep my ruler on my perspective point. And you don't need a fancy ruler like this. Any straight edge or any ruler works. And I wanna make this line about the same vertical length or horizontal length where this stops. So if I eye it out here, it's gonna stop right around there. That looks about right. Now I'm gonna move to this point. For those of you that are just joining, this is gonna be the final artwork. We're doing a floating cube with a checkered pattern with the shadow and everything. So this only takes about 20 minutes. We are connecting this line to my perspective point again, which is right here. This line, you want it to match about the same length as that. So I want to say about there. And now we're going to connect them. So I'm going to connect these two. I'm using pencil for this part. And what I want to do now is I want to bring these rows down as well. Not for every cube, but for every row that we drew. So the way we're going to do that is, again, same way we just drew our lines. We're going to put our ruler on our perspective point and connect it to the lines of the rows that we made. So 1, let's see, 2, and got 1 more on this side, 3, and we're also going to do this side as well. So pick our perspective point, got 1, 2, and I know they look a little funny from this angle, but that angle is what's going to help us give it that cube look at the end. So next step we're going to do is we're going to mark off every square that we're going to draw in with our marker. So whether it's red or whether you're using color the black or blue or whatever marker you have at home, we need to mark these. So let's mark these to make it super easy on us. So I'm going to start off with, let's see, I want to start off about this one, just a checker pattern. And we are also going to mark these rows, right? So the rows that have any color on the bottom, we're going to mark. We're going to mark that one as well. We're going to mark this one as well, right there. And we're going to color them in. So I'm using red for my checkers. You could use black or any color, as I mentioned. And I'm going to color these in. Only takes a couple minutes. So there's my red marker. I'm going to go on to the next square here. Let me do all the squares first. Great activity for the kids, for your friends, something to do at home that you've never tried before. With home materials, you don't need anything fancy for this. You don't have to go to the art store. These are just fine. Here. And you can see we're going pretty fast on this. I think the next step after this is going to be adding some shadows on our cube, and those shadows are really going to make it pop and give it the dimension that we're looking for. So next, we're gonna color in these rows that we drew. So we're gonna follow all the way down and all the way down here. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in. I will answer them. I'm also leaving this video up on the page so you guys could see it. You don't have to just follow when I'm doing it live. You can actually do this again, or if you missed any steps, you can also see this at your own pace and share with your friends. And you guys could try it out at your own pace. You could rewind so that you can do it together with other people. Here we go. Last row. Perfect. So we have our cube ready. But now the next step is we got to add some shadow to this. And the shadow we do with our pencil so that we can give it dimension. Obviously, you can tell the difference here. This is the shadow that we need under here. We need to make it pop out. And the way we're going to do that is with our pencil. Now I have an art pencil here because since my lights are so bright, if I use a regular number 2, it'll be harder for you guys to see because it's so bright. However, a number 2 does work. A regular house pencil does work for what we're trying to do here. Totally fine. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start adding our shading right below this line and to the right of this vertical line, okay? So we wanna go, in order to give this shadow effect, we wanna go from very dark to lighter, very dark to lighter, and we're gonna use our finger, the tip of our index finger, to shade that in. So you wanna add a little heavy pressure with your pencil here on the top. And as you go down, you let go of the pressure on the pencil. You don't press down as hard so that the shadow starts disappearing, and you wanna make that shadow look soft as it gets lower. We don't want hard shadows. The only hard shadow we want is right on this line and to the right of that line as well. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go with my pencil and add this lead and release pressure. Now you could see lines here, but I'm gonna get rid of some of those lines with my finger by smearing them. So now that I have my line work, I'm gonna grab my finger, I'm gonna press down pretty hard and just smear down. It actually works very, very, very well. This works perfectly. And that's the shadow we want. It's already sticking out. as you could see, if we lean on our paper, it already starts taking some shape there. So now we're gonna do it on this side as well. And I'm gonna press down pretty hard with my pencil. And as I get lower, I go softer and softer, softer and softer with the pressure. And now I'm gonna smear. So now I'm smearing here with my finger, my index, getting rid of some of those lines. Just creating that dimension that we need here. And it's already pretty evident we have some dimension there. So when we tilt it, we already see the difference here. So next step we're gonna do is we're gonna do our shadow here. And what you wanna do is a 2" by 2" square. You could totally eye it out. Doesn't have to be perfect size, but we wanna keep it around this size. The easiest way to do that with our pencil is by doing it in layers. So we wanna do a square here, and you wanna do it lightly. You wanna add very little pressure to the pencil. And we're gonna smear it with our finger once again. So what you wanna do is add one light layer here and smear it with your finger. And with the lead that's already on your finger, from this, you can actually smear very nicely. And what you want to do is get rid of edges. So shadows don't have edges, especially if they're further away. They don't really have hard edges. They kind of just disappear on the edges of whatever shape you're doing. So if we have a square here, what we want to do is smear around that square and just lose the edges as much as possible. I'm gonna add a little more. Layer 2. We're gonna do 3 layers of this. So this is layer 2 over square. I'm gonna go a little darker. I want to get rid of some of those edges, but we want to still maintain that square shape from our cube because it's casting a shadow. And I want to go slightly darker right here. That's the type of shadow we want. We don't want edges. We want to smear that with our fingers as much as possible. So, if you look here, you see our cube start taking shape. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut our paper on the top, across, and on the bottom, and maybe some of the bottom as well here. So you could either eye it out or grab your straight edge and draw your line across. That's where we're gonna cut. We're gonna cut around here vertically, so we're gonna choose this part. I'm gonna draw right there. And what we wanna do is we wanna cut right here, and we wanna cut the top of the paper as well. We want to be left with this white, our shadow, and our cube. So here are scissors. This is what we're cutting, and this is going to be the final effect. So let's get on with this part. I think this is the funnest part of this, getting a nice straight cut. Any pair of scissors work. kitchen scissors, whatever cuts will work just fine. We're gonna get rid of this left side of our paper. And we're gonna get rid of the top here as well. So I'm gonna cut across. If you guys have any questions, please write them here. I'll be glad to answer them. So we're cutting from the top. Voila. So we're done here. Now, I'm going a little faster for demonstration purposes, but you can always work on your shadows a little better, make them a little smoother, darker. If your pencil doesn't mark as dark here, you add a little more pressure and make sure you make it a little darker, just so that it sticks out. As well as this side, I feel like I need a little darker edge on top. This bottom looks fine. We just want to darken this area. So if you could tilt it, you could see how it gives a dimension, and the shadow, no fancy paper, just computer paper, the shadow sits just fine right under that. And this is a great activity for kids. You can use this as a nice craft class and share it with your friends, your children. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back soon with other activities as well. Hope you guys are staying safe and healthy out there. Again, 3D art, very simple at home. Materials, nothing fancy. Thanks guys for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask and I will answer in the comments. Take care.